Well, g'day all you folks. Welcome back to Das Customs. It is another dreary looking day. I mean, we've had unprecedented rainfall in the last couple of days. We've had a couple of clear weeks, believe it or not. We've kind of, well, when I say a couple, we probably had about a week where it was sunny, and then now it's just gone back to torrential rain. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. This video, actually last night, I was there and I was kind of setting up. I had plans. And the plans were to start building, this. So this is the dash that's going in the 50 Shades project over there. It had previously had the whole dash cut out of it. It was a Baja bug before. So I thought, hey, why not? It gives you lots of room for different gauges. It means I don't have to run a stock speedo, which, I can run a GPS speedo in it now. So I bought this, as a cheap kit. It's just off eBay. It's nothing too flash, but it should look the part. It's got a tacho, speedo, volt, oil, temp, fuel. Might do away with the fuel. I don't need to know about that. And then, of course, I have got my airbag system, so that's going to be the air. I've also got an AFR gauge, a proper wideband AFR gauge that I don't think it's come yet. And I've been around and I've bought, all of this stuff. So this is, that's a 12-panel fuse box. I've got, different colored wires, battery hookup, terminals. I used to have a huge box of these, but I've used them all up. These ones are pretty cool. And all the bits, these are the switches for the air ride. So they're a momentary switch, up, down, and always off, neutral in the middle. So that'll, they'll be going in the dash somewhere. And I was about to, well, they've got the windscreen wipers, we call them. Windshield, you guys call them. Light switch, and, all the bits. That's a, charge port. I've kind of been around shopping, and I even went over to my mate Tony's and got a sheet of aluminium to cut a new one of these out of, because this one, it's not going to quite work. This had a stereo mount in it, and these buttons, which I don't know what they do, and other stuff, and I'm going to try and make a nice layout. And that was the plan for today. I had it all set up, and then I was perusing, I was looking, as I shouldn't really be doing, on the marketplace last night as I was going to bed, and something popped up, and I thought, I gotta have that. And this is it. All that stuff and that stuff over there, and a little bit of that, and that bit there, and those bits there. It is an old school, and I'm talking probably 2000s, CB Performance turbo fuel injection setup. And it's never been run. I can see it. I can see it's brand new. Not one part of this has been used. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, the price was very low. I mean, I started looking online to see what things are worth. That pair of hats is worth 250 US, So we're talking, 400, 500 Aussie dollars right there. $1,200 for that exhaust manifold, US, including the J-pipes. They're somewhere. I think they're still in the car. These, throttle bodies. So these are a cool set of throttle bodies that I've got with the fuel injectors, which is a part I was missing. Fuel rails, it's even got the manifolds to go with that. And not only that, it's got all of this to run the whole thing. Now, this is a non-tunable, well, when I say non-tunable, it's a manually tunable setup. This is a very early fuel injection setup, and you can see it there, CB turbo injection. And basically what this is, an underdash mount where you can tune it on the fly, which is pretty cool because, I'm not very good with the digital stuff. So, this might just be right up my alley. And when I got it, it was just a whole bunch of parts in the box. The guy had obviously bought it off someone else and they'd never run it. And so this thing could be 20 years old, could be 30 years old. So it's kind of like new old stock. And, I'm just kind of interested. Well, first of all, I had to figure out, is it all here? Like, what am I missing, And looking on the internet and there's just not much there. And somehow, boom, I went images and wow, there was an image and not for the turbo, but not for the turbo setup. That was just what they had there called the performance injection, whereas this is the turbo injection setup. So the performance injection only has 2 knobs. This one has 4 knobs, one for the map, sensor, and then I'm kind of thinking, God, what are all these wires, And I kind of figured it out. So we got the injection that they plug into the top of the injectors. Luckily, like that one's labeled 2, and I could still just read number 4 on this one, so that means I know where they go. This one I could just read on it. It says coil, so there's a positive and negative coil. This is the map sensor, and what it does, I figured out, well, it had this little suction-y, nozzly thing, and I figured, oh, well, that must plug into boost. So that's going to be plugged into, through a way of tubing one of these boost ports there. There's a fuel pressure regulator. There's, I figured that the, throttle position sensor, that plugs into there. I think that is actually part of the math system as well. That's the airflow. And, when I started looking at it, the bolts have never even been snugged down. It's just all brand new, The one issue that I've got, and I've pulled it apart, I wasn't even going to film this, but it was just one of them things. I'm like, I've got to start filming this. There's bits in here, and I recognise those bits. That is from an MSD box, which I don't have. So that's maybe an issue. It also came with this switch, which I know is a boost recharge switch from the MSD 6BTM, because I've had one of those before. Got the switch, don't have the box. Unfortunately, that would have been cool. I don't need it to run it, but it would have been cool to be able to retard the timing on the thing manually as well, but I don't need it. What I was getting at is the main issue that I found, or that I think, like, this is a brand new turbo setup. There's no doubt in my mind. You can see this thing has never had smoke through it. It just hasn't. You can just tell just by looking at it. And when I, reached in, be very gentle putting these things together. There's just a lot of play in that, which strikes me as odd, being a brand new turbo setup. I don't know why there would be so much play. You can tell it's brand new just by the way it is, as well as, like all the bolts. It's never been through a heat cycle. These things weren't even done up tight. You can tell all the gaskets are brand new. You look inside the exhaust side, there's not one hint of it ever having smoke through it. So what I've got to try and figure out is that okay? The fella I bought it off, he didn't know much about it. He was just one of them things. He was into V-dubs and had acquired it, as I do with many things. And he said he contacted CB Performance, and they said to him that was normal play. Like, I've had some turbos with a bit of play in them. That seems excessive amounts of play. Other things to think about, I've got this really cool header now, exhaust manifold. It has the wastegate on it, so that's there. I guess that's adjustable. Boost referenced. Never had smoke through it. the exhaust manifold itself has, you know, signs of just sitting around. There's some scratches. It does look like to me that was from being on a car, but I mean, there is no way that has had a heat cycle through it. So now I've got to decide. I've got this cool stuff. I've got lots of cool cars. Which car am I going to put that turbo setup on is the question. I mean, that car there, which is the 50 Shades, it has a really, really nice engine. You've probably seen it before. I'll take you over and have a look. Look at this thing. It's beautiful. And there it is. It's all set up, you know, she's ready to go. The thing is, it's a pretty antique system. You know, at best, that is a very antiquated system. And do I really want to put that on this car, you know? So, it's got me thinking, do I put it on this car again? I have had a turbo on this car. It was great fun. I've just got this car driving real nicely. Just tuned up a nice set of 40 Webers for it. Everyone always tells me to stop playing with that car because it's good and it's done. But now I have this. So I'm perplexed. I'm perplexed as to what to do. What would you do? Tell me, what would you do? Anyway, that's a big preamble. What I'm going to try and do while I think about all of this stuff, because I'm not just bolting turbo straight to it today. I'm going to start playing with this wiring loom. See if I can get this dash cut out, make a pattern for it, and all of that kind of stuff, you know. It is a rainy day. It's a good day for it. I feel like it's time. Anyway, stay tuned. So I guess in a way I'm lucky. I got a template. It makes it a lot easier. I know I've made these things in the past. I mean, for example, do I even have them? I used to have them hanging on a wall, but they're not anymore. Like the rat trap. You know, it has its own little custom gauge holders in there. They're not great. Let's just be honest, they're not great, but they do the job. And now I've got to try and make them better. This car obviously wants to be finished a little better than that one. So, look, here's the goal. I just need to get this thing, just get it cracking. So I'm probably gonna, if I can start on a nice straight edge like so. What I need to mark on this is purely the outline and the fixing bolts. That way it all just, it lines up, and then I've got to try and fit all of that in it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and lay it out, see what fits where. I mean, these gauges are slightly bigger than those holes, so I'm going to spread them apart a little bit. But because I don't have a stereo, I don't need that. Anyway, I'm going to find a scribe. I'm going to try and scribe into the aluminium. It's nice and soft. And I might even see if I can use a face that doesn't have any scratches on it. Alright, anyway, I'll lay this on there, I'll scribe it out, and then I've got to try and figure out how I'm going to cut it. Aluminium cuts pretty easy, but not with a grinder. A grinder's actually, it kind of builds up and clogs up. You're better off cutting it with a circular saw or a jigsaw. That's a curved edge there, so I think it might have to be a jigsaw. Let's scribe it and see. So you can see I've scribed a nice line. in there. Just put a bit of tape both sides. I try and avoid scratching it. And I'm just going to hit it with my Milwaukee jigsaw. Hopefully the blade in it. These blades tend to clog up as well with aluminium. And if you've ever cut aluminium before, especially with a jigsaw, but I've got to try and find something to lean it on so it's stable. This is the, always the trick. I might try and use that box right there. Sit it down on the floor so I can get right on top of it. So, I feel like that was a success. Now I just need to punch out all these holes, and to make sure they stay where they're meant to be, I've clamped it all together. And I'm gonna just kind of drill them out so that way they, locate where the other one is. Haven't decided. I've kind of been having thoughts about. I've been having thoughts about maybe wrapping this part of the dash in a fabric to make it a bit softer, maybe with the stitching that's going to be in the seats and stuff as well. It's a thought. I haven't really confirmed it yet in my mind. We'll see how we go. See what it looks like alloy, I guess. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's a good copy. I've taken a little bit more time to kind of do a bit more filing and try and straighten up some edges, which is cool. The good thing about having this is I can kind of put gauges in there and see, how they feel that close together. At the end of the day, I'm happy with that. These are probably a bit too close together. I need to have a minimum of 6 gauges, believe it or not. I could have bought these, with kind of heaps of integrated gauges in them. But I also kind of felt like I've got this panel to fill up. So there's no point, I'm definitely not running a stereo in it, and there's no point leaving empty space. So I'm going to go off roughly these sizes. They're a bit too small. I think they need to be about 5mm bigger. I'll probably spread them out a little bit, and I probably want something like, let's see if I can put you there and have a look. Probably want something like probably that, and then speedo, boom. And I might put the two. I've got all the gauges are in. They got this chrome bezel, except this one, which I would love to change that to a chrome bezel, but I probably can't. So I'll probably put the couple the odd ones on this side. That's going to be my air tank, and my AFR gauge will probably be up the top. Air tank can be there. I don't really need to read it as much. And then I'll have 4 gauges over this side, so it'll be kind of, at the moment I've got a fuel gauge. Maybe I won't put a fuel gauge. Depends if I end up putting boost in this thing or not. But yeah, I've got an oil pressure, temp gauge. They kind of want to be front and center. Oil pressure, temp. Volts can be down, so oil pressure, oil temp, boom, boom. And then I've got to somehow also have room for these switches, which I was thinking to mount in there somewhere. They need to be for my air ride, so they've got to be fairly accessible to be able to up and down them. Let me start doing a bit of a layout on here and see if I can figure out a pattern. Well, it looks like a lot, but I think that is my layout. That gives me all the gauges I need, including AFR, air pressure gauges. I've got room for a fuel gauge at the moment. It'll probably end up being a boost gauge, which may end up here, but I'll put the ones up here. At the moment, I'll probably put temp gauges, oil pressure, and I'll probably put the fuel gauge up there so it can be changed quite easily. Bolts and the other two there. This is my headlights, or probably put headlights, windscreen wipers, and that's my 4 switches for my air ride setup. That's these. So now I've got to try and drill all of that out. Well, believe it or not, after yesterday, the sun is shining. It's muggy. Yep, the humidity is up there. But I'm back in the shop and boom, I've cut out all the holes. These ones were, you know, jigsawed out. You can tell they're a little rougher. These ones are punched out with a hole saw, and these ones actually did them with a step drill bit, you know, which is probably still kicking around here somewhere. So now I guess, you know, is lay out all the switches, the gauges, and I was a little concerned because I thought, you know, these being cheapish, when I say cheapish, I mean cheap gauges, I thought these were just hardwired into the back of them, which was going to make it pretty difficult, you know, if I ever had to, well, let's just say I build this thing and then I want to pull it apart to cover it or paint it or something, but actually they're pretty cool. They've got a weather-tight shield, and inside there's a plug, so that's awesome. It means I can actually do the whole wire up and then, you know, unplug them when I need to. So that's cool. Anyway, I'm going to start popping in these gauges and see what we kind of end up with. Well, that there is, look, at this stage, pretty much the finished product. I think I'm going to have to paint it now. I was using a die grinder to open up one of the holes and them's the brakes. Anyway, so that's the air ride switches. So momentaries, they're a little stiff now. They'll probably loosen up a little bit, and obviously once it's in the dash as well. So you'll have, you know, down, up. The funny thing is that normally, maybe because I'm driving a forklift where down is up and up is down. See, well, it's basically however I want to wire them. We've got the headlights, windscreen wipers, fuel gauges in at the moment. Look, I've got an AFR gauge coming to go in there. That's the air. There's 5 different settings in, or 5 different readings in that, so I've got to wire all that in. And then, of course, the back needs to be fully wired in, and that's going to be the trick. A lot of these are going to be loops, so you'll have power loop, which will be the red, pretty sure, earth loop, which will be the black. You'll have auxiliary, well, that'll be the light, I imagine, will be the yellow. That'll be, I think red's constant power, yellow's ignition power, auxiliary power, and then white is probably going to be your light, I imagine, when your headlights come on. Blue will be your signal, you know, pretty much like that. They've all got pretty much the same. No signal for that must be the volts, because it doesn't need a signal wire because it just picks up power out of your system. So up, power, down, you know, lights. I'm going to try and wire in the light switch just as a light switch. I'm pretty sure normally they do a bunch of different functions, but yeah, I'm going to wire that in. Anyway, should we go put it in the car and see what it looks like? I'm not sure I'm going to have the right fixings for it, but I'll dig through my stuff and see what I got. Well, I got to say, I'm pretty happy with that. I actually pulled one of the seats off the top shelf up there. Been sitting up there since I came to this shop. I got another set of these seats sitting up there for the ute. I like these seats, you can probably tell. They fit me good. Fit a beetle good. Nice low backs, kind of that sporty look. Now, I digress. How do we feel about that? Now you can probably tell I feel pretty happy with it. I actually like it as a aluminium. I found some nice black Allen key, you know, dome head bolts to go in there. I'm pretty stoked on that. I mean, you can see now it's in. The switches work a lot easier. You got just a bit more control over them. I like the layout. It has that bit of a cockpit kind of feel to it. I'll see if I can get back and give you a bit of a further back look at it. You know, I'm pretty happy with that. I got to say, I saw that in a car with a nice steering wheel. I feel like that's going to be pretty good. Now I have just got all the other stuff to do. You know, wire all that up, which is, it's going to be kind of boring. Look, I might show you guys a bit of that stuff. I mean, let me put it to a vote. Would you rather see me put a turbo back on the rat trap? Will it fit? I don't know. I just don't know. Actually, I was driving this thing this morning and it started making a weird noise. I think it might be something to do with the alternator and the fan. It sounded like a kind of grindy. Hopefully it's not a spun bearing. Oof. Anyway, would you rather see me put a turbo on that or do wiring on that? Let me know. I'll do what you guys want. Anyway, having said that, I'm going to clean up all this mess in here and, this is me, Das Customs, signing out. I'll catch up with you guys next time. See ya.